gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Allen, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this is a very important hearing this morning. I want to thank Administrator Regan for coming before our subcommittee. You know, we talked about what folks are asking us, or what folks are concerned about back home. You know, obviously, our folks are concerned about inflation, the ability to, you know, meet the family budget, and obviously our future economic prosperity. They just don't see. I mean, it looks pretty grim out there, to be honest with you. And then, of course, from a national defense standpoint, our adversaries are there as well, and we compete in a world economic. It's a competition, and we have to we have to stay on top to maintain our status in the world. Unfortunately, your budget is filled with a lot of burdensome regulations that will harm manufacturers and will increase energy prices for Americans, and that's something that, like I said, is a real problem right now in this country. I have a lot I want to cover, but I'd first like to mention that you can put me and my constituents on the list of those folks that are very unhappy with your WOTUS rule, and I know we're not alone. I next want to discuss an issue that has greatly impacted my district, and that is the chlor-PFAS. I represent a district where the #1 industry is agriculture. I want to take you back to a conversation you had at prior hearing for chlor-PFAS. Were you aware that your agency on June 24th was exchanging offers and closing in on an agreement with industry on 11 uses for this agrochemical, but then within 1 week, EPA faced lobbying from NGOs cozy with this administration and New York's Attorney General, resulting in EPA going a different direction?
I'm not.
You're not aware of that?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar.
You testified that you did not appeal the court's decision on the 11 uses. Was this because the United States government uniformly believed these uses were unsafe?
I think the Ninth Circuit had spoken up and had indicated they were frustrated with the pace of the agency. We took a look at the law and what the Ninth Circuit had required, and I think that is the result of the proposal that we put out.
You also testified that the court was clear with you that it was frustrated. However, an appeal would be before a new slate of judges. Did you have information that those judges were also frustrated with this issue?
I don't have any information on judges.
If a future judicial action remains this decision to EPA, can we expect a different outcome?
You know, if it is remanded back to the agency, we'll look at the direction that the court has given us, and we'll try to govern ourselves accordingly.
Let's move on to another topic of concern. As you're aware, that manufacturers, utilities, and others pay attention to potential future regulatory costs and compliance costs when making long-term decisions to maintain or expand operations. And the more EPA signals and outlines what its plans for regulations, owners of facilities take that into account. Would you agree?
Yes.
So this coming Thursday, it's been reported you will be proposing new emissions regulations on electric generation, and this follows a number of costly EPA regulatory actions on the electric sector. We know from experience that some of these rules will never be implemented, but that's not the problem. The problem is EPA appears to be pursuing a strategy to send as many signals as possible that future costs are going to increase, and so owners and investors will decide to shut generation permanently. Administrator Regan, is that an appropriate strategy for the EPA to pursue?
It's not the strategy at all. I think I've been engaging with the utility CEOs in the power sector for close to 2 years now. They've asked us for some regulatory certainty. They asked us to be responsible in terms of looking at that regulation and how it coincides with the West Virginia case.
Well, you said y'all do cost-benefit studies.
We do cost-benefit analysis with every
Okay,
rule.
so if the cost goes up, then you say, what's the benefit?
Well, we look at the benefits not only to the economy, but to public health. We look at the benefits to lost work days, lost school days, premature deaths, loss of life. So that there's a complicated scenario that we put this cost-benefit analysis together, and we'd be happy to brief your team on how we arrived
Well,
at that.
the last thing we need is to have more burdensome regulations that will add to rising energy prices. And I thank you for being here today, and I yield back.